Board Chair Jackson, we are streaming.
Thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to the Board of Education Audit Committee meeting, and I would like to call this meeting to order. Dr. Albright, may I have a roll call, please?
Ronaldo Tomorito. Heather Benavides.
Here.
Josefina Dominguez.
Here.
Sarah Shanka McCoy.
Here.
Savannah Visaraga.
Here.
Renette Apodaca.
Here.
Gabriella Blakey.
Here.
Courtney Jackson.
I'm here. All right, our first item is to consider adoption of the January 21st, 2025 Audit Committee meeting agenda. May I have a motion, please?
I move that we adopt the January 2025 Audit Committee meeting agenda. This is Board Member Benavides.
This is Board Member Dominguez, and I second that.
Dr. Albright, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Heather Benavides.
Yes.
Josefina Dominguez.
Yes.
Sarah Shanka McCoy.
Yes.
Savannah Visaraga.
Yes.
Renette Apodaca.
Yes.
Gabriella Blakey.
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes. Our next item is to consider approval of the minutes from the Audit Committee meeting on November 12th, 2024. May I have a motion, please?
I move that we approve the minutes from the Audit Committee meeting held on November 12th, 2024. This is Board Member Benavides.
And this is Board Member Dominguez. I second the motion.
Dr. Albright, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Heather Benavides.
Yes.
Josefina Dominguez.
Yes.
Sarah Shanka McCoy.
Yes.
Savannah Visaraga.
Yes.
Annette Apodaca.
Yes.
Gabriella Blakey.
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes. All right, so tonight there are no action items, so we will move right to section 5, which is our discussion items. Our next item is the presentation of the fiscal year 2024 audited financial statements. Our presenters tonight are Renette Apodaca, Chief Financial Officer, Mark Turnbull, Executive Director of Accounting, and Sheila Herrera, CPA Partner at Moss Adams. You have the floor.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Blakey. Again, this item is to present the completed financial statements to the board. As you can see with the board information, there was a link to the statements. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sheila Herrera to add her thoughts on the audit. And with that, after that, I stand for questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Turnbull. I apologize for not being on video this afternoon. I'm recovering from pneumonia, so trying to save my voice a little bit here in my FaceTime. But the financial statements were issued by the State Auditor's Office on December the 17th. And so we did subsequently issue the financial statements on that day ahead of the holidays. The report that Mark is referring to is the entirety of the district financial statements, including all of the component units. It does include the 3 reports that we do issue with the financial statements, which are the independent auditors report, the yellow book report, which is the report on the internal control over the financial statements. And then the final report included is the compliance report, specifically related to the single audit of the federal funds. Within the report, you'll also see all of the findings that they presented, which do include all of the component unit findings as well. Any questions based off the information that has been provided?
All right, are there any questions from the committee? Okay. I am seeing none. The only question I have is basically just a confirmation that this will be put onto our website.
Yes, we'll put a direct link to the state auditor's website, which
Perfect.
that report can be downloaded from there. The complete report,
1,200 pages of reading.
yes.
Okay.
If you're
All right.
really well bored.
Okay, so are there no other questions from the committee? Okay, we will go ahead and move on to the next item agenda. Our next item is the APS Charter School Financial Audit Accountability item. Our presenters tonight are Johanna King, Chief of Staff, Dr. Joseph Escobedo, Senior Director of Charter Schools, and Roberta Velasquez, Manager of Charter School Business. You have the floor.
Good evening, Madam Chair, committee members, Superintendent Blakey. The fiscal year 2024 audited financial statements include APS authorized charter schools. As part of the district's oversight, the charter school team has established a process for supporting and holding schools accountable for improving their audit findings. This evening, you will hear from the charter school team on their process and from one of our charter schools on their correction action plan. I'll turn it over now to Dr. Escobedo and Ms. Velasquez.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, and Superintendent Blakey, good evening. In your packet is a presentation of our process for supporting and holding the charter schools accountable for improving their audit findings. Should be noted that we do follow national best practices from the National Association of Charter School Authorizers for conducting the accountability, which requires all schools who have an audit finding develop a corrective action plan. So every single school who has any finding from a charter school has to develop a corrective action plan. And so as a reminder, in charter school governance, charters are set up much like school district governance, with the governing council acting as the school board and the school administrator acting as the superintendent. So it's really important that we work with our governing councils on oversight of the audit process. And I think you're going to hear a little bit about that tonight from the audit chair from Cienaguas. And as you look at the audit process on page 14, it's imperative that our charter leaders and governing council council members and who oversee the process really understand that balance and that oversight and their role. And we've had some really good conversations with Cienaguas about that. Our oversight process requires each school, as I said, to develop their corrective action plan and to submit that. And so as part of that, we are going in and testing that the fixes from the corrective action plan as part of our site visit process. So, as you see an example of an audit finding tonight, we are actually asking the schools to tell us, what's the fix and how can we see it, whether it's a policy, whether it's a procedure, and what have you. And schools who meet certain criteria of deficiency also receive a notice of unsatisfactory performance. And so just as a reminder to the board, that is the contract language that kicks off the revocation procedure. So once we issue the notice of unsatisfactory performance, if a school isn't responding, if they're not implementing their corrective action plan with fidelity, those revocation processes begin. So we're following a legal process. Our team, as I said, monitors that process, and the person who does that is Roberta Velasquez. She's been with our team for 6 years and has 30 years of finance experience. She's also a certified fraud examiner. So when she's looking at these things, it's really through an additional lens. So I'll turn it over to her.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, Superintendent Blakey. As you have received this audit information, as we get it, we analyze it to identify our total number of audit findings, our repeat findings, our classification of findings. And then we use that data to determine who's going to be issued the notice of unsatisfactory performance. As you can see on page 19 of your packet, the total number of audit findings for charter schools decreased in FY 24 from 103 to 88. And if you average it out amongst our schools, that's about 3 findings per school. Remember too, that as part of the audit, a lot of our charter schools have foundations that are also component units of our audit. They're a component unit of the school, and the school is a component unit of the district. And we've also included the analysis of those audits for the foundations on page 20 and 21 of your packet. We also train our governing council's audit committees on their responsibilities. You can find, well, some of that on page 22. We also work with our charter leaders to make sure that what needs to be fixed is being fixed, and that determination is made by our auditor.
Ms.
And
Velasquez, can I interrupt just real quick? The packet that we have only goes up to page 16. Unless I am looking at the wrong packet.
No, I think you're correct, Madam Chair, and I think that the page that she's referencing for us would be 14, the Charter School Governing Council Audit Committee responsibilities.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Just want to make sure we're literally all on the same page.
literally. Madam Chair, members of the committee, and Superintendent Blakey, just a reminder, state statute requires all charter school authorizers to monitor the fiscal compliance of each school. And this process does that for our annual audit. And so we do stand for any questions you may have.
All right, thank you so much. Are there any questions from the committee?
I do have a question.
Okay, Board Member Dominguez.
So as an authorizer, APS, the Board of Education, as an authorizer, what is the plan and timeline that's in place that allows us to reasonably get all the information about an audit standing, along with anything else that will allow us to make an informed decision about charter schools being authorized by us, approval?
Madam Chair and Board Member Dominguez. So the timeline for the notice of unsatisfactory performance is being executed now. So those schools who received the notices, those went out on Friday of last week, so the schools then will be meeting with us in February to submit their corrective action plans and have our teams approve it. You're going to see that process done on a more expedited level with Cienaguas. So we can also provide you a report of all schools and their findings by each school, but we will also have that as part of the executive summaries every time the school comes before you for an amendment, renewal, or new application. I hope that answers your question.
It does with regard to the audit. Thank you.
Any other members of the committee with questions? Okay, seeing none, I just want to thank the team for providing this overview of audit accountability as it relates to charter schools, especially as we move into our next agenda item. So thank you for doing that. So our next agenda item is the discussion of Cienaguas International School FY24 Audit Corrective Action Plan. Our presenters tonight are Johanna King, Chief of Staff, Dr. Joseph Escobedo, Senior Director of Charter Schools, Dr. Alonso Vera, Audit Committee Chair of Cien Aguas International School, and Velia. Yes, thank you. Cordolano, Executive Director, Cien Aguas International School. You have the floor.
Buenas noches. Thank you so much for authorizing Cien Aguas. Cien Aguas is, I'd like to say, the #1 dual language immersion program in Albuquerque, if not New Mexico. Every year, we host visitors from all over the world, primarily at La Cosecha Dual Language Conference, but we do host them throughout the year. According to New Mexico Vistas, our math proficiency is at 24%, science proficiency is at 33%, and our reading proficiency is at 48%. We are proud to serve Albuquerque's International District. Our school's population is currently at 43% English language learner, 29% special education, and 83% economically disadvantaged. With me is Dr. Alonso Vera, and he is our audit committee chair. We are ready to speak on our findings and our corrective action plan that was developed with help from Dr. Escobedo and Roberta. I think it's in your packet.
Yes, ma'am. We have the corrective action plan. So if you'd like to give your presentation on that, we are all ears.
Yeah. Okay. If you look at finding #1, this was a repeat finding. When it's related to the Gatsby's and Spitas, more professional development is clearly needed in this area for myself and our business manager. We have already signed a contract with a company to assist with calculations and to train our business manager. This will be starting here pretty soon. That is part of their scope of work. The governing council will be overseeing that contract.
Sorry, that was my line. Yes, the government council will be reviewing and overseeing that contract, make sure that the results are implemented.
Our second finding was caused due to oversight. From now on, we're going to work with our business manager to ensure that any timeline extension requests are first granted by APS. BARs are being reviewed monthly, and I'm signing off on all of the reports. The governing council.
Yes, the governing council will review and approve all those BARs monthly. Make sure that that's done.
This is also being noted on all of our GC minutes. Any questions so far? The next finding is a request for reimbursement on non-compliance or other non-compliance finding. We have now improved the process to make sure that we have 2 individuals looking at the documents that are submitted for reimbursement. This will also include a sign-off for me that it does meet the criteria for reimbursement. On this one, we may review and update policies for RFRs and take it to the governing council for approval.
And the governing council will oversight the expenditure review process and review and approve the policy that whatever policy is needed.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you said you'll sign off on the RFRs, but it seems like the requisitions need to be reviewed before the purchase to ensure that they are eligible for reimbursement. Do you have a process in place for that?
Currently, there's a justification piece that is needed to be completed. Before I sign off, what I'm going to be asking is to make sure that they explain how it is that program managers and people requesting are explaining how it is an allowable expense.
Thank you.
Want to go to the last one and then we'll stand for questions?
Yes. The last one is the one that resulted in the qualified opinion. Our school has really struggled with this area since 2020, as you can see from the findings. That was when we purchased the building. And so we've been trying different ways to make it right. What we finally have done, and it's already a work in progress, is we've already contracted with a business management company that will review and train and update all of the documents going back to 2020 to make sure that it's correct this next year and going forward. So it's a pretty big deal. And so I'm personally involved in making sure that I also learn so that we can help resolve this issue.
The Government Council will make sure to oversee that contract execution and make sure that the results are implemented. We'll review that progress at every meeting that we have.
Thank you. I think that was the end of what you needed to present to us. Is that correct?
That is
Okay,
correct.
so we will go ahead and stand for questions. Are there any questions from the committee members? Okay, I am seeing none. Thank you. Thank you for coming in front of the board. And I think just having a little bit higher level of accountability comes with coming before the audit committee and presenting your findings. So we appreciate you doing that for us. And thank you, Dr. Escobedo, for taking such good care of our charter school division. And we'll now move on to the next item on our agenda.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, our next item on the agenda is the report on the ethical advocate statistics for the period of July 1, 2024 through November 30th, 2024. Our presenters tonight, let me just confirm, will be Dr. Antonio Gonzalez, Deputy Superintendent, Leadership and Learning, and Jean Saavedra, Executive Director, Student, Parent, and Employee Service Center. Gentlemen, you have the floor.
I guess I'll go ahead and start. For some reason, my camera, the host turned it off, so I can't turn it back on. So if he turns it back on, I'll be live on camera. So Madam Chair, members of the committee, and Superintendent Dr. Blakey, good evening. Here we go. I am Gene Saavedra, Executive Director of Student, Parent, and Employee Service Center. And today I bring before you the ethical advocate data from July 1st, 2024 to November 30th of 2024. And this has been shared with you. As a quick overview, whistleblower complaints are filed primarily through ethical advocates, which allows for anonymous reporting. I have followed the procedural directive. When receiving these reports, I review the reports and send them to the direct supervisor and one additional supervisor above in that chain of command, so that 2 levels of supervisor are notified. As you can see in the data that we have provided, we have received 42 whistleblower complaints from July 1st to the end of November 2024. The reports in your packet provide a breakdown of the data by several different categories. And at this point, I stand for your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Saavedra. Are there any questions from the committee?
I do have a question,
Board Member Dominguez?
if I may. Thank you. What accounts for the drastic drop from 2023-24 to 2024-25?
Madam Chair, Board Member Dominguez, thank you for the question. I can't be exactly sure what the drop was. I can tell you that a lot of the Let's Talk Now provides an opportunity for employees, families, members of the community to bring concerns to us that we can answer immediately. And therefore, I would make the assumption that they don't necessarily file a whistleblower complaint because they're able to get the answers and solutions that we provide here through the service center at that point, or through the district when they are given to different departments.
Thank you.
Okay, and Board Member Benavides, I see that you have your hand up as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Saavedra, on the first page down at the bottom in the chart titled Complaints by Location School Level, I've racked my brain and I can't figure it out, so I'm going to ask the dumb question. What does non-APS mean, or in this case specifically, where did this complaint come from, if you can disclose that information?
Well, the non-APS means that they're not an employee or a student or teacher from APS. It's just somebody outside of APS, and sometimes they don't identify what their affiliation is or where the complaint is coming from exactly. So that's how that is categorized.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we will now move on to our next item agenda, which is executive session. So our next item is the consider of approval for the Board of Education to convene an executive session as authorized by the Public Meetings Act, Section 10-15-1H2, to discuss limited personnel matters in connection with activity fund audits. May I have a motion, please?
I move that we approve for the Board of Education to convene an executive session as authorized by the Public Meetings Act, Section 10-15-1H2, to discuss limited personnel matters in connection with activity fund audits. This is Board Member Benavides.
And this is Board Member Dominguez. I will second.
Thank you. Dr. Albright, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Heather Benavides,
Yes.
Josefina Dominguez,
Yes.
Sarah Shanka McCoy,
Yes.
Savannah Visaraga,
Yes.
Renette Apodaca,
Yes.
Gabriella Blakey,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes. Okay, I would now ask that all those people who are not part of the executive session to leave the meeting. And I will announce that the streaming of the meeting will continue once the meeting reconvenes to open